Okay, this is such a different vibe than when Dan does this.
Would we give Dan like a makeover?
Oh, I'm coming back for that.
Yes.
Let's do
Yeah.
that. Let's-
Hi, welcome to In the Test Kitchen. I am not Dan Souza. My name is Lon Lamb, and today co-hosting with me is Nick Sharma, cookbook author extraordinaire. Hi, Nick.
Hi, Lon. It's such a pleasure to be here.
So there's a ton going on behind me in the test kitchen right now. There is a cookie book in development, and I can't wait to get back there and try things. Before we get there, though, Nick, part of the special projects we're working on is a series of surprising desserts from Thanksgiving. What is your contribution?
So I decided to go a little out of the box and push the envelope with everyone. And I'm doing a parfait that's really simple to make. It's got a cranberry curd that's inspired by you.
Oh.
And it's got a couple of spices infused in there just to tie in with the theme of fall and Thanksgiving. And then a second layer that's made from pastry cream. But again, that's spiced as well. Very lightly, very gentle. And then a kiss of crushed Biscoff cookies to tie it in. So that's this beautiful triple layered parfait. It's just easy and fun.
Yeah, it is spicy and vibrant in such a fun way. Biscoff cookies, for anyone who hasn't tried them, you probably have gotten them on airplanes if you fly certain airlines, and I don't think I'd really appreciated them until one of my colleagues started developing a recipe based on the original cookie, a speculoos, and they're crisp, they're spicy, they're so much fun. Why did you choose that instead of, say, I don't know, like ginger snaps? They're spicy, they're crisp.
With the Biscoff, so my first exposure to it was on American Airlines because that's the snack that they send out. But also, it's just got enough spice that you could have it at any time of the year. And I love it with tea. I love dipping it in tea, just enough where it softens a little bit and then you put it in your mouth. But also, just like ginger snaps, it can be used in a pie crust. If you don't want to go through the rigmarole of making the whole thing, that's an easy thing to do. But what I wanted with this dessert was something where the flavors are very subtle. I wanted the sourness and the fruitiness of the cranberries, and then just the light velvety texture, the lusciousness of pastry cream, but then something needed to stand against it. So the Biscoff cookies gives you that textural contrast from all those smooth, velvety flavors in there and textures. But you've got the Biscoff cookie that has that hint of warmth, just enough crunchiness.
Yeah, it's funny. I think when I had those cookies with coffee in my case, that was when I was like, oh, I get it. I get these cookies. They're great. A couple of the other desserts that are going to be part of that campaign that everyone should be looking out for are passion fruit mango daiquoise. It's gorgeous, beautifully textured, lots of bright tropical flavors. A pumpkin layer cake with toasted marshmallow buttercream.
Yum.
And it's so tasty. The toasted marshmallow flavor really comes through. And then finally, a yuzu sesame cheesecake.
The yuzu, passion fruit,
Yeah, like leaning into that tropical vibe kind of brings a vibrancy to the dessert spread, and I love it. And speaking of vibrant, I want to move on to our guest for today, Rick Martinez. He's a James Beard Award winner, vibrant, colorful in style and personality, and I can't wait to chat with him. Welcome, Rick Martinez. Rick Martinez, welcome to In the Test Kitchen. We got our hands on this book, and I'm so excited to dive in and get more information from you about like how you built it. How did you convince your publisher to let you do a book about salsas?
So Mi Cocina was a very, very painful process. And I decided that I was not going to go through that again. And I basically just told, it was very, when you have a successful book, it's easier to go in on the second one and just say, no, if you want the second one, you have to do this. And so I basically just made a list of demands, and I'm like, it doesn't really matter to me, I'll go somewhere else. And so I got what I wanted, which was complete creative and editorial control. Like I just, this is what I'm going to do. I don't need you to do anything other than print.
That's awesome. So I was flipping through, and I've got a couple of pages flagged in this book. The photography is amazing. How much time did you spend just getting all of these shots? Like, everything is so vibrantly styled and lit, and it's just so appealing.
It was 2 weeks. We did it at my house in Mazatlan, and I had just finished the second floor of the house specifically so that I could shoot the book in there. I also the house next door to mine is abandoned, but I know the owner, so I was like, I guess it's not fully abandoned. They can't sell it, whatever. Anyway, I'm renting it, and I turned it into a workshop. So the prop stylists were able to make surfaces. So all of the surfaces, like this here, I bought, I think, like, I don't know, 20, pieces of plywood. We applied, different cements and textures to them, then painted them. So we built all the surfaces, and then, my whole upstairs is like a studio kitchen.
Wow.
So we just shot it and, had fun. We're like listening to music. We're eating like big family meals of like everything that we cooked. So it was just really, really fun.
It must have been so nice to have bespoke surfaces and to have control over the color and the texture. Like, it just helps your food pop that much more in the photos. That's really awesome. So you live in Mexico now, but you grew up in Texas,
Yes.
right? When you were a kid, what was the role of food in your life?
Ooh, wow. I mean, it was pretty central to it. Both of my parents were amazing cooks. So my mother was a nurse, and so she worked early. So she left the house like around, I think, like 6:37 in the morning. So my father had breakfast duty. And, it's funny because like now I understand, looking back, how incredibly rare and lucky me and my brother were. We had a home-cooked breakfast, a packed lunch, and a home-cooked dinner every single day for our 18 years of our life. And, it was just normal to us. Like, so my father in the evening, after dinner, he would ask me and my brother, like, what do you want for breakfast? And we had like a sort of a repertoire of things. So there was, breakfast tacos, pancakes, French toast, waffles, just eggs and bacon, sometimes cereal if if we were allowed, like sugar.
What was it, a treat? Cereal in my house, like my mom was not into having sugar in the house, and so if we got cereal for breakfast, it was a special day.
Oh, it was a big day. Yeah, like Frosted Flakes and, Sugar Crisp and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it was, like just really, really good food. And then my mom, she would pick me up from school or daycare at like around 3:34, and between 4:30 and 6, she was whipping up some amazing meal, and so then we all sat down together. So it was, again, like I can't believe that that's what we did for that many years, and it was good food. And because my mom was a nurse, like it was generally really healthy. And also they had a big garden, so we ate a lot of fresh vegetables and herbs. Like my parents were both born in Texas. Their parents came from Monterrey and Torreon in northern Mexico. So, and they grew up in the 50s and 60s, and so they were very much like, we need to assimilate and acculturate and be the typical American family, Texan American family. And so we also had like barbecue and grilled steaks and fajitas and fried chicken and things like that. But we also had what I thought was Mexican food, but it turns out it was actually more Tex-Mex. Mm-hmm. But like when you're, at least for me, I grew up in a mainly white neighborhood, in the 70s in Texas. So you're just assigned this label, right?
Yeah.
Like you're that Mexican family. It wasn't good or bad to me. It was just like, oh, this is the label that people use on us. So I'm like, okay, we must be the stereotypical Mexican family. And so I just assumed that everything that we did, all of our traditions, culture, food, was Mexican. And then when I started traveling in Mexico, I was like, wait, what? Like, I remember, like, I think I was like 19 or 20, and I was in Mexico, like in the central part of Mexico, and I called my mom, and I was like, I don't understand. Like, this food is nothing like what we eat, and people don't look like us. Like, I don't. What are we? Like, what, And that was actually what really started and planted the seed to want to write Mi Cocina, that was really more for me. Like I needed to go and explore the country and figure out where do we come from. And luckily, I got the publisher to pay for it.
It's funny. I not really understanding your own culture really resonates. Like my family came to the U.S. from Vietnam when I was 1, and so functionally, I'm about as American as it gets. Except because we're Vietnamese and Chinese, I'm also not quite American, and it wasn't until I started cooking professionally that it really dawned on me which bits of or which dishes that I grew up eating were Chinese, which ones were Vietnamese, and which ones were the best that my grandmother and mom could do given the ingredients available in the US. Like in the 80s, a lot of the things that they were used to using weren't available here, so they would make substitutions. And you start to wonder about authenticity, and it's kind of this really beautiful muddled mess. And I love it. And you actually talk about that a little bit in your in the introduction to your book. There was just this one paragraph that really stood out to me, kind of defining your goals for the book, I guess. But you wrote that carrying on tradition is beautiful. And yet when it comes to salsas, a lot of Mexicans chill out. They're freer. They experiment and invent. And that's kind of how I grew up with Vietnamese and Chinese food, certainly. I'm sort of curious, how do people who are Mexican, who grew up making salsas and eating them, how do they see the recipes that are in here? Do you talk to them about these?
Yeah, I mean, so I've all of my neighbors, and actually the team of construction workers that were building the second floor while I was developing the recipes, got a daily treat. The thing is like, food culture outside of the United States is so different. We have trained, unfortunately, the people in this country to believe that there is one correct version of every non-American dish. And so publishers put things like authentic in front of your book title if you're a person of color or if it's a non-white, non-American cookbook. And so then everybody is looking for that word to buy a cookbook, and sometimes even the authors, myself included, are looking for that quintessential, like iconic one correct version of that recipe, and they don't exist. My feeling, first of all, I hate the word authentic. I do believe that there are instances where there is a point in time when a dish was created. And so, for example, in Mazatlan, where I live, in the 80s, the governor of Sinaloa, the state, went to Mazatlan, and he was staying at a hotel, and the chef in the hotel was like, "Oh, I'm going to make a big dinner for this guy." And he found out that his wife, the governor's wife, made these amazing shrimp tacos, and he was like, "Oh, great, he loves shrimp tacos. I'm going to outdo her and make these crazy tacos." And so he named them, so he served it to him, and the governor loved them. He called them tacos gobernador.
Yeah.
And that was the birth of that particular dish. And so I think you can say that that's the authentic version of that particular dish. But then, in the 40 years since then, everybody has their own version of it, and there are different states that have different versions of them. I think probably the commonality is that it's a shrimp taco, but everything else, kind of changes. And it's okay. Nobody wags fingers and points and says, that's not the way that we do it in Mazatlan, If I invited 10 people over to my house and I asked them to bring the same dish, there would be 10 different versions, and people would celebrate the personal sazon, right? And they might even be like, oh my God, I'm going to steal that. I'm going to start, adding that to my whatever. So it's just a very, very different mindset. And I think that, to me, that's how people think, that's how people eat, that's how people cook. And so, again, when I present, my version of Mexican food to, people that live in Mexico, it's not that big a deal because they're used to that, right? That's like their tia has a different version of a family dish than their mother, than their grandmother. And so it's It's just all part of the fabric of Mexican cuisine.
That resonates with me a lot because I have the same experience when I go to India. So I grew up in India and came here when I was 19, but it's exactly the same thing. No one's pointing fingers back there in India about this isn't as authentic. But here, it is a fight, because I think one of the things that happens with immigrants is that we're holding on to memories, and then whatever defined us, we pass that on to our kids. And that sets the stage. And then, like you said, publishers feel like you're brown or you're whatever, a person of color, and then that is it, which is kind of
I'm gonna push back the tiniest bit because I have definitely had moments where, banh mi is a good example of this, where I see sandwiches to which that term is applied, and the Vietnamese person in me who grew up eating banh mi bought from supermarkets in San Jose in the 80s is like, that's not right. And I'm trying to learn how to make space for people to be creative, but I think there's something really important about holding on to I feel like there are characteristics that define a dish, and they are worth preserving. But like the interplay, like where that line is, it's so hard.
I don't think it's that hard. I mean, because I think there are fundamental things that exist in all dishes, right? So this was years ago, and there was a gentleman that I followed, a creator, influencer, whatever, and he made pozole verde. Only it didn't have pozole in it, in which case it's like, how do you call something pozole if it doesn't contain that ingredient, right? It's like spaghetti and meatballs, but no spaghetti.
Yeah.
And I think that's just basic, right? Like there's certain things like tacos gobernador, right? It should be a taco. It should probably contain shrimp.
Yeah.
I mean, this is two easy things. Other than that, just do whatever you want. Same thing with chiles en nogada. Nogada means walnut sauce. So if you don't have a chili and you don't have walnut sauce, it's kind of not that dish then, right? It's just a chile relleno with some salsa on the top of it. So I think I don't think it's hard. I think it's a basic respect of the culture, the dish. Like if you're going to make something, at least figure out like what the name of the dish means, and then decide, am I making chicken stew or am I making pozole?
That's a fair point. So the other thing that really stood out when I was looking at these photos, your nails. So for anyone who's just listening right now, Rick has alternating, I'm going to say, tangerine and magenta nails right now, and they're shiny and gorgeous and perfect. But I've noticed that in all of your interviews and appearances, you've got a great mani. What inspires color choice patterns? Like you really go all out when it comes to, bringing a little bit of your personality to your hands.
Well, it started actually, I think this was like maybe 2015. I had painted my nails black for a Halloween costume. And then I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I spend most of my day staring at my hands, it's like cooking. And obviously I like color. And so it was just a way for me to add a pop of color, to something that I'm going to stare at all the time. And it just, and in the beginning, so this, 10 years ago, at that point in food media, it was pretty horrible. Not only there were at times producers, publications that didn't want that, fine. But then the comments were horrible. But, I was just like, I don't care. If you, if this is going to, knock me out of, whatever food media you consume, I don't care.
Yeah,
I didn't want to talk to you anyway.
It's the media scene has really changed. Kenji often has his nails painted in a lot of appearances, but also nail technology has changed. Like back in the day, nail polish chipped, and wouldn't work. I didn't want anyone with nail polish on making anything that I was going to eat.
Polish. I would get on the
really
subway
different.
after I got it done, and I would chip it. Gel's good.
It is. Maybe we should get Dan a Manny too.
We should totally do it. But that's one of the things coming to ATK for me is that they're very like nail focused.
I
I have to
mean,
get my nails at least buffed. I get my nails
Oh,
buffed and
nice.
shined before I come in. Yeah.
I think we're in a space where people are watching us cook, and it's really distracting when I don't know, your hands are unkempt.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think a little bit of personality, especially since so much of the stuff we do, your faces aren't in there. Maybe people are hearing you speak, but your hands are always in there. It's a nice branding moment.
Right, right. Yeah, and for me, it's all about the color. I mean, obviously. It was funny because Alex and I had sort of a fight. Not really a fight, but like for us, like it was a fight. The photos are lots of color. He was like, "Can we just have one neutral toned photo?" I mean, for some reason, he was calling them moon tones. So this was our like fight, like color versus moon tones. And so I was like, I will consent to one. And I was like, it has to be the most beautiful shot ever. It has to be beautifully styled. So we had like one surface that was in a neutral tone. Everything was like sort of neutral, and it was beautifully styled, beautifully shot. It's in the book, and so we got the shot, and I said, "Great, that is the last neutral photo that I will ever take in my entire life." And he's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "It is beautiful, but it doesn't make me happy. Color makes me happy." And I specifically designed this book to radiate with joy and happiness for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think that it's possible to open this book and not be in a good mood. But also, to me, salsa, like, I think I'm the only person that makes salsa for one. Like, you're generally making it for a group, a happy hour, a party. You're making it with your family. It's going to be for Taco Tuesday. And this book is the pregame, right? Making the salsa should be as fun as the event that you're making it for. And so that's why I think there's even a line in there that's like, crank up the disco, call the kids in and just like have fun making salsa.
Yeah. Do you have tricks for like early fixing food that you've made early on that wasn't quite right, like or for reheating things that you've packed away from previous testing or shoots just to like freshen them up?
I think salsa is a really good way to freshen anything up. Mm-hmm. I think, and this is going to sound like a horrible conceit, but like I think, now if I can, when I come up with an idea for a recipe, I see the flavors in my head. Mm-hmm. To me, it's almost like musical notes, right? Each ingredient is creating part of this harmony, and so I compose food in my mind, and then write out sort of a blueprint for the recipe.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. Like working at the test kitchen, I develop recipes across multiple cuisines, and when you talk about thinking about food in terms of music, it's really true. Like every cuisine has kind of a different approach to how things are mixed, like the instruments used, and like the pacing of how those flavors combine. But once you can kind of unlock that vibe for a cuisine, recipe dev within that cuisine gets a little bit easier. Like I find that when I'm tasting, I'm looking for those elements as much as I'm looking at individual ingredients. It's kind of the trick to working across multiple cuisines.
Yeah, there are formulas if you compare things because everybody approaches the same ingredients. Mm-hmm. Which is slightly different. Mm-hmm. Like caramelizing onions, quite common in the West, but in a lot of Asian countries, they don't. They just wait for it to get tender and move on.
Yeah.
So
or eat them raw.
Yeah.
Right. Or like I actually find that in Vietnamese cuisine, certainly like when you make pho, aromatics are roasted dry. Like your ginger, your shallots, your onion, and it kind of reminds me of what you would do for a lot of Mexican cooking. Like it's not about the outside turning black. It's about what's happening underneath that black char, which is kind of hard for people to teach because everyone's like, well, I just need it to be black on the outside. Let me crank the heat up. And you're like, it's not going to be quite right. It takes time.
It takes time, right? I think we've also, for the last 15 years, trained people to believe that, like, you can coax as much flavor in a weeknight meal as you can, like, a weekend meal. And you can't.
Right.
You can make something good for a Tuesday night, but it's never going to be,
Right.
the bolognese or the mole or the curry that's going to take hours and, a lot of ingredients. But one of the things that when you were talking, one of the things that I had to unlearn when you were talking about developing in a test kitchen, I had to unlearn this idea of balance. So when I worked at BA, every dish that we made was like balanced, right? It was sweet and savory, acidic, and all the things. And even when I made Mexican food at BA, it needed like that, when we were doing the tastings, it needed to be balanced. And one of the things and it never occurred to me until I started living in Mexico, is that, Mexican food is built to order by the person consuming it, right? So at a taqueria or even just like a sit-down dinner, there are multiple salsas. There are, chopped cilantro, onions, lime, dried oregano, dried chilies, fresh chilies, the salsas, the salsa macha, radishes, avocado. You don't need to make something that's perfectly balanced because you're going to add the acid and the sweet and the crunch and the cold and the tangy and the this and the that to it. So, and it makes things a lot easier, like, not necessarily like from a, I'm a lazy cook perspective, but like just that, okay, I don't need this dish to do everything, right? It's the protein, it's the dominant protein, it's the really unctuous, rich, shreddy meat. It's got a little bit of garlic, it's got some dried chilies and a little bit of oregano, but that's all it needs to do, right? The main flavor is the meat and the fat. You're going to put that in a really, really good tortilla that's going to carry the sort of like toasty corn flavor. And then it's like sort of dealer's choice, right? It's like, what do you want to put on there?
I mean, that approach is so much, it's so much easier for serving families. And certainly when I think about my sister's family, she's got young kids, her husband's tastes don't totally line up with hers, and letting people customize and putting a little bit of thought into how they're eating is actually really nice.
Yeah, I think it's very liberating, but it also, I think for people who are getting involved with the meal, it's such a fun way to do it, but it also teaches you a lot about yourself. And I think this is something home cooks need to understand, is that you cook the way you want to, and then give people the freedom to choose for themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're gonna change things anyway. So you might as well like just kind of lean into it and just,
Don't panic. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's just a different approach. I think there are certainly folks out there who feel that, if they're taking care of their family, they want to put a perfect thing out. And there's a place for that. Like, I mean, fine dining in the U.S. is built on that. We are going to give you the chef's perspective. We're going to suggest how you eat it. And it's a nice way to kind of inhabit somebody else's palate for a little bit. But it's so hard for doing at home, especially if you want to put together an easy weeknight meal. Like the idea of like setting out easy condiments and garnishes and letting people make up their own thing makes the meal more engaging and easier.
And I think even in the situations of like fine dining, I think it was a Thomas Keller quote that he was talking about like the sort of 3-bite rule, and it's like the first bite should sort of wow, the second bite is like about you're contemplating what it is you're eating, the third bite you should be thinking about, wow, I wish I had more of this. And I think to me, that's a really good rule. And that's part of the reason why I like salsas, because you can change up each bite. So it's not the same. And to be honest, like I get bored very easily with food, partly because I think, I do always use and eat multiple salsas at one time. So, whether it's like a scrambled egg or a taco or whatever, every bite is a little bit different, right? There's a little bit more filling in this bite. There's a little bit more onion and avocado, a little bit more guacamole in this one. And so every bite is different. And so I'm thinking about what I'm eating. I like that combination, or ooh, that's interesting. And I've made when I was little, my mom used to make chicken and dumplings, and I loved it and adored it. And I made it about a year ago, and it was good. But after I've had about 3 or 4 bites, I'm kind of well, first of all, I need heat, which there's none in this dish. But also, okay, well, I know what this tastes like. I don't feel the need to keep eating it because I know what the bite's going to be.
Yeah.
And so I'm very much like that. I need new textures, new temperatures, new different salsa flavors in there in each bite.
Yeah, I'm so impressed that you're trying to recreate a food of your childhood. Every time I try, it's not right, and I do not know what I'm doing wrong. My sister and I were chatting, and I'm gonna try to make this fermented mustard greens and pork belly soup that she made, and it was really simple. It was smashed garlic. You would make these fermented mustard greens that it's a lacto ferment, so a brine. It hangs on the counter for a couple days, and then you stick it in the fridge. It gets a little bubbly, and we loved it. It was my sister's favorite soup, and I'm going to try it, and I'm already worried about how we're going to fail.
But I think that's the fun part, right? Because you go on this discovery journey, and then you start to remember these nuances, this is what I'm missing, or this is what I like. And then you just start to build on that. And I think for us as cooks who are developing recipes, that's the best part.
Is there a dish you would chase from your childhood, or that you have chased?
I have chased. Okay, so the one thing that I requested every birthday from my aunts, because my mother doesn't cook, which is well known. It comes up every time. But I would ask my aunts, who are excellent cooks, to make me biryani for my birthday. And it's one of those dishes where, yes, you can find that instant pot, quick 30-minute thing that you would do, and it just tastes horrible to me. But it's something that you take the time. It takes you 4 days to get there because you marinate the meat in yogurt for a couple of days, and then you do the layering with the rice, and you build it up, and then there's that whole drama when you lift it off. So that was a recipe I wrote for Serious Eats when I was developing recipes for them, and I realized something was missing in the aroma, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And there were 2 things. One was a lichen that's used in Indian cooking that I had no idea that.
How would you even know?
So I went on this Google search, which is one of my favorite things to do. And I said, I am missing certain aromas. What do people use? And biryani in India is one of those dishes where it changes from the north to the south. And this lichen is dried up, used in there. It's called dagad fool. And they put that, so it gives this very earthy, I don't even think there's a word in English to describe that aroma. And then the other thing that they use is pandan. So they usually take the leaves or they sprinkle water on top, and that has the same chemicals as basmati rice. And so it kind of amplifies that intensity of the rice being a big part of the dish. But those were the 2 things. And I said, shoot, how did I not know about this?
Yeah, those aunties, they have tricks.
Yeah. And they don't always share them.
No, they don't share.
No. But that's why I think it's and I say this to everyone I know. One of the things that I did before my mother died that was probably the best thing that I've ever done is I recorded her. So the last Thanksgiving that she was here, I was like, I'm going to record and write down everything that you do. And she's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, no, I'm not asking. I'm telling you. And it's amazing because if I had not done that, I would have lost everything, all of her recipes. And the better part of this is that, she had told me when her mother died, so I was 6 or 7, she told me that the thing that she missed most was the sound of her mother's voice. And that as you get older, you lose that memory. You have the picture, you know what she looked like, but you can't hear the voice anymore. And so now I have these videos of her cooking in the kitchen, using her utensils, her little written recipes, her voice. She's telling me stories while she's, cooking. And I have that, right? Like it's like it's preserved, and I watch them every Thanksgiving now, and
It's so lovely.
Yeah. So I think, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I lost my.
No. Yeah, I mean, it's my father. When she died, he gave me her utensils. So like, she had these 3 enameled. I don't know if they're iron or steel or what they are, but like they're these spoons. They're probably like 70 years old now. She had a first edition Betty Crocker cookbook. I have that. The rolling pin. It's in the book. The most requested recipe that I asked her to make me, or she would, when I went to college, when I would come home, she would say, "What do you want me to make you?" And I would always say the same thing, chile colorado. Partly because I love that dish, but then also because I knew she would make flour tortillas. And when I would come home, I would open the door, and the first thing that would hit me is the smell, right? The dried chilies, the stewing pork, the garlic. And then the second thing was the sound of the rolling pin hitting the countertop as she was rolling out the tortillas. And, sometimes I would just stand there at the door and I wouldn't walk in because I was just like, sorry, now I'm going to cry.
I'm so sorry.
No, I mean, it's like, to me, it's the power of food, right? It's like, that memory is something that's locked inside of me,
Yeah.
And so the photo in the book, I mean, there's obviously like the photo of the dish, but that was secondary to the rolling pin, her rolling pin, and then I rolled out a flour tortilla, and that's the dominant image. But I keep those with me,
Yeah.
and they're and this was both books actually. Like, I used the utensils my mother cooked with for me and my brother and my dad to make the food in these books for the people that are gonna buy them and cook these recipes.
God, that's so beautiful. I lost my mom a couple months ago,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
but we have a lot of videos of her, and it's so comforting. Yeah. Wow, Rick, I did not expect quite so far-ranging of a conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Do you want to let folks know what you're going to be up to in the next couple of months, where they can find you?
Sure. So I'm actually doing a second book tour. So I will be in New York and Chicago, DC, San Francisco, and Austin in the next couple of weeks, months. I also just launched my my Substack called Sazon. And also if you're on the West Coast, I'm working with local kitchens. I have a taqueria, Sonoran taqueria menu, lots of carne asada, burritos, and some really delicious northern Mexican cuisine at local kitchens in San Francisco and LA.
I know, I need to go to the LA one.
Yeah, I'm going next time I'm out in the Bay Area.
Yeah. The Studio City location is amazing. It's really beautiful. Also, get the dessert nachos.
Okay,
All
on
right.
my list.
Hot tip, dessert nachos. Thank you so much for joining us in the test kitchen.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
So lovely to talk to you always.